Hello and welcome to Backyard Birding with a Great Backyard Bird Count. So, February is a really great month to stay home and bird from the comfort of your own home. Not only is in most places the weather not ideal, but it is also National Bird Feeding Month. Project Feeder Watch is going on, and in a few days, the Great Backyard Bird Count is starting, which runs from the 14th through the 17th. And the Great Backyard Bird Count is one of the many community science projects that you can participate in throughout the year. So, what is citizen science? So, what is citizen science? It can be called by other names too, including participatory science or community science. And these are projects that rely on data collected by the community. So you don't have to be a professional biologist or ornithologist to contribute very important data. And these projects can rely on data collected by tens of people, hundreds, thousands, or even hundreds of thousands, depending on the project. And some projects that you may have also heard of are eBird, which I'm sure most people who are birding have an account and regularly participate in. The Great Backyard Bird Count, Global Big Day, which is on May 11th, and Project Feeder Watch, which runs from November 1st to April 30th. So, what is the Great Backyard Bird Count? It was originally launched in 1998 by the Cornell Lab of Ornithology and the National Audubon Society. And at this point, it was a United States project. It was also the first online participatory science project that collected and displayed data in real time. In the past, you'd have to wait for the data to be compiled, sent off to various publications to get the results of these projects. And this project also led to the creation of eBird in 2002. Soon after, Birds Canada joined the project in 2009. And then, due to the rise of eBird, it became a global event in 2013. So, the next question is, how do you participate? How do you send in your list of birds for this event? So, the two main ways I'll be going over are through eBird, whether that be the app or the website, and Merlin's step-by-step ID tool. So let's first go over eBird. So first, all you make sure is you have an account. And then, so right now I'll be showing you how to do it through the app. So it's simple as clicking start checklist. And the nice thing about eBird is automatically fill in the date and your start time. And then you want for each of your counts, you want to make sure you're doing it for at least 15 minutes. And if you look at the upper part of this checklist, you'll see it's keeping track of your time spent doing this checklist and your distance. So that's a nice handy tool so you don't have to fuss with that. So when you start your checklist, it'll give you a nice list of species. So as you're sitting and watching birds, whether it be from your backyard or elsewhere, you just want to document the number you see of each of these species. So if you have a chickadee come in, grab a seed, fly off. Chickadee come in, grab a seed, fly off. You're still only at that point, you're still only seeing one chickadee at a time. So if you see two chickadees at the same time, then you can count two. But you want to make sure you're counting the max you see at a single point in time. And just do that for every species you see when you're during your count time. And like I said, eBird will keep track of your time and your distance. So when you're done with your checklist, you just say stop, you select your location, and that automatically sends the data in, and you have submitted your data for the Great Backyard Bird Count. Very simple. And you can also do that on the website, but the app is very handy, and I highly recommend that. So, where can you watch for the Great Backyard Bird Count? Even though it does say backyard, you can do it anywhere. Your yard, local park, nature center, the city, middle of the ocean. If you have a nice boat, in the middle of the ocean, really anywhere. So, why participate in these community science projects? It's fun, free activity you can do in your own yard or anywhere you feel free, anywhere you want to. Your observations can be used to help monitor bird populations and contribute to other scientific studies. It will also help you get to know your local birds better. By sitting there observing them, you'll learn all their key field marks and behaviors. It will help build your observation skills. You'll be a better birder when you learn the local species. And you'll also be a part of a global community of birders. So here's a quick little recap of the stats from 2024. So there were 7,920 species identified during the 4-day count. 210 countries or subregions participated. There were 384,416 eBird checklists submitted, 313,874 Merlin bird IDs. And I'll go over that shortly. And that's the other way that you could submit your sightings for the Great Backyard Bird Count. 164,740 photos, videos, and sounds were added to the Macaulay Library. 642,003 were estimated global participants, and 385 reported community events took place during those 4 days. So let's meet some of our common backyard birds or figure out what we can expect in our area. So this is the second way of submitting your birds to the Great Backyard Bird Count. And the second app that I recommend, which is Merlin. So while I love field guides, I realize that if you're not familiar with their layout and how to find a species in there, they can be very overwhelming. So apps like Merlin can help break things down, have things organized in a way that is a lot more user friendly to people who are not as familiar with the taxonomic layout of species in a field guide. And you can also narrow it down where unless you have a regional field guide, you're looking through hundreds of species that you're not going to see in your area. So once we download Merlin and we want to see what species, all we have to do is click explore. And then just make sure we have that narrowed down to the species we're just going to see. We want to click on this symbol in the upper right, make sure we have filter by likely birds, make sure our location is correct, and I recommend changing year round to today. And that will give you a much more narrowed list of species that you can be expected for your account. So let's click this little, it's working. So then I'll give you this nice list of species that can be expected in your area. And you'll notice that on the right-hand side, there's a couple of different colored dots. So if they have a red dot by them, that means they're pretty rare for the area. So it would be very unusual for you to see these species. And then there'll be species that have these yellow half circles. They're more uncommon, but generally what that means is you have to go to a specific spot to see them. So you're not going to see a red-breasted merganser in your backyard, most likely, unless you're a nice sized river flows behind you. So you just have to specifically search out these species. But this list is very, very helpful with getting more familiar with birds that you can expect. So then what happens if we have a species that we don't know what it is and we can't identify it? That's where Merlin also comes in handy. So say we're watching our backyard feeder, and this cute little guy shows up and we don't know what he is. So we are going to open our Merlin app and then we're going to click this step by step. And it's going to ask us 5 questions to help determine what this little guy is. So the first question is, where did you see this bird? So I would recommend just clicking current location. And then the next question would be, when did you see this bird? Again, it should automatically be listed for today, but if not, click reset to today. The next would be, what size is the bird? And Merlin has this nice little pictograph of 4 species that most people are very familiar with size-wise. So we have the smallest is sparrow, then a robin, crow, and Canada goose. So most people know those standardized sizes. So this helps make it much easier to determine size-wise. So this guy, he looks pretty small. He looks sparrow size. So we're going to click sparrow sized. And then it's going to ask us, what are the main colors of this bird? So we see the body is mostly like a rufous brown color. So we'll click buff brown. He has a nice gray face. So we'll click gray. And there's a couple little nice little black accents to him. So I just click black. And then the last question it's going to ask is what was the bird doing? So this little guy is eating at a feeder on the ground. So it would be appropriate to either click eating at a feeder or on the ground. So once we do that, we'll click this. And the results say that is American tree sparrow. So we look, and yes, that's a good match. So then we'll click this is my bird. So by doing those step-by-step processes, then clicking this is my bird, that submits it to the Great Backyard Bird Count, either through an eBird checklist or straight from the app. So those are the two ways that you can submit to the Great Backyard Bird Count is through an eBird checklist, whether through the app or website, and through Merlin step-by-step. So let's go over a couple more tips to help identify birds. So some of the main things that you want to look at to identify them is their size, their shape, their behavior, and their patterns. As you have birds come to your feeder, practice these ID steps. Notice each of the species' size, shape, behavior, and patterns. What is the shape of the blue jay? How does their size compare to the goldfinch or other birds visiting? Size and shape can be a great clue to differentiate similar species. For example, the downy versus hairy can be an ID challenge. Here, behavior and pattern is not really going to be helpful, but size and shape will, with the hairy being quite a bit bigger than the downy and having a lot longer bill. Also, pay attention to the bird's behaviors. This can be used as a clue what species are. So if you have a little brown bird on a hanging feeder, it's probably going to be a finch. But if it is a little brown bird that is eating on the ground, good chances are that is a sparrow. So using these four keys can really help you pinpoint species or at least its family. And it's a great starting point. And then also pay attention to field marks. Learn the patterns that you see on birds, such as do they have streaks on their flanks? Do they have eye lines? Do they have a supercilium? Do they have crests? So just familiarize yourself with these common field marks, and that will definitely help you when you're in the field and there's a lot more species showing up to help narrow down what species you're seeing. So if you have any questions about the Great Backyard Bird Count or how to participate in it, feel free to leave questions in the comments. I hope you found this information helpful. And with that, I hope you plan on participating in this fun community science project that's coming up in a few days. And after that, then there's other ones throughout the year they can participate in. Thanks and happy birding.